A local court today issued a warrant to arrest President Yoon, who is facing insurrection charges over the botched martial law imposition. His legal team seeks an injunction against this. Acting President Choi Sang-mok appointed 2 Constitutional Court justices this afternoon, out of the 3 as requested by the opposition to fill the vacancies on the bench for the presidential impeachment trial. Most of the victims of the recent air disaster here in Korea have been identified as the country mourns the tragic incident. It's 8 p.m. in Seoul, the last day of 2024. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Min. We start with an unprecedented political event here in the country. An arrest warrant has been issued for President Yoon in response to his snubbing of a series of summons for questioning over charges of insurrection. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
An arrest warrant has been issued on Tuesday for President Yoon by a Seoul local court. This means for the first time ever, a sitting president can be taken into custody by law enforcement authorities. When the actual detaining will take place is typically not revealed, but the warrant is valid for 7 days until next Monday. According to a CIO official, Yoon, once detained, may be held at the Seoul Detention Center in Muan, just south of Seoul. On top of this, search warrants have been issued as well, and locations include anywhere that President Yoon could have been. This comes as on Monday at midnight, the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials requested an arrest warrant after 3 failed tries to summon President Yoon for questioning. On the request, 2 allegations against President Yoon were stated, one for leading an insurrection and the other for abusing authority to obstruct someone from exercising their rights. On the other hand, President Yoon's legal representatives has stated that the CIO had no authority over investigating insurrection charges, so the requests were not valid. But now, with the court's decision to issue the arrest warrant, it appears that these 2 issues are settled. There is probable cause for the 2 charges, and the CIO has the authority to investigate President Yoon for insurrection charges. However, President Yoon's legal representatives said the court issuing an arrest warrant is in fact illegal and invalid.
The issuance of the warrant does not resolve everything. It was requested by an institution that clearly lacks legal authority, and the process of requesting the warrant was not transparent.
The attorney added that Yoon's legal representatives will dispute this decision at the Constitutional Court. In the meantime, the Presidential Security Service is now under heavy pressure as to how the detention process will go. For the time being, the service said that the security measures related to the execution of the warrant will be carried out in accordance with due legal procedures. There has been an issue as there could be a clash between law enforcement and Yoon Security Service. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, thousands of President Yoon's supporters gathered near the presidential residence in Hannam-dong, Seoul this afternoon to protest the issuance of the arrest warrant against the president over his botched martial law incident. The supporters were in a severe standoff with police as they occupied roads and disrupted traffic. On the other hand, protesters calling for President Yoon's impeachment also gathered at the residence before they disbanded, cheering after hearing the news of the issuance of the warrant. Amid political pressure, acting President Choi Sang-mok has decided to appoint 2 out of the 3 vacancies on the Constitutional Court's Justice Panel, which has been a hotly debated issue as Yoon faces impeachment trial proceedings. Our correspondent Woo Soo-young has more.
Acting President Choi Sang-mok has approved the appointments of 2 Constitutional Court justices, smoothing the way for President Yoon's impeachment trial to pick up pace. This came on Tuesday as Choi convened the last cabinet meeting of the year, where he underscored the ongoing financial and societal challenges facing South Korea following President Yoon's martial law decree that has led to his ongoing impeachment trial and criminal investigations.
Having assumed the role of acting president on December 27th, I have decided to proceed with the appointments of Constitutional Court justices based on the need to end political uncertainty and societal conflict as soon as possible to prevent further crisis in the economy and people's livelihoods.
As the president's impeachment case proceeds, the ruling and opposition parties have been locking horns over the 3 empty seats on the Constitutional Court bench. With the 2/3 majority rule, the 6 judges currently on the panel would have to vote unanimously to impeach the embattled leader. While the ruling party has insisted that an acting president does not have the authority to appoint Constitutional Court justices, the opposition has called for a full 9-member panel. Under pressure from both sides, Che took a decisive step appointing 2 judges, Chung Gae-son and Cho An-chang, who were recommended in a bill passed by Parliament last Thursday. He deferred the appointment of Ma Eun-hyuk, nominated by the main opposition, saying he'd wait for a bipartisan agreement. At the same time, the acting president vetoed 2 opposition-driven bills to launch special investigations into President Yoon's martial law and First Lady Kim Gon-hee's alleged misconduct based on constitutional concerns. Che cited how the bills grant the recommendation of special prosecutor candidates solely to the opposition, violating the separation of powers. He called for bipartisan dialogue and cooperation on the terms. Che's 2-pronged move appears to be aimed at appeasing the opposition while aiming to stabilize the state of the country's governance after the Democratic Party unilaterally impeached the previous acting president Han Duck-soo. Han said he'd refrain from appointing constitutional justices until the 2 parties had reached an agreement.
I hope that the appointment of the justices will help us move past political uncertainty. I honestly call on the ruling and opposition parties to work together to move forward with united efforts for accident recovery and for the stability of people's livelihoods in 2025.
However, the ruling People Power Party expressed its strong regret over the appointments. The Democratic Party and Assembly Speaker Woo Sik also expressed strong regret, but over the remaining vacancy, arguing there had been 3 candidates recommended by the National Assembly. The DP also criticised the Cabinet's rejection of the special investigation bills. Although 1 position remains vacant, the court now has 8 justices, the same number as when it ruled to impeach former President Park Geun-hye in 2017. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Korea was struck by surprising political events like no other in 2024, triggered by the president's martial law declaration earlier this month. As we look back on the past year, our political correspondent Shin Ha-young is here in the studio to recap the matter and give us a preview of what's ahead next year. Welcome, Ha-young.
Thanks for having me.
First, before we delve into what happened, would you give us a quick overview of the political situation leading up to it?
Sure. So this year, South Korea's political scene saw intense conflict between the rival parties in the National Assembly. And it all started after the April general election, where the pan-opposition, including the main opposition Democratic Party, secured 192 of 300 seats, while the ruling People Power Party took 108 seats. And what followed were multiple cycles of the opposition passing contentious bills, the president vetoing them, and the bills ultimately being rejected after a revote. Now, let's first take a look at what happened over those 12 days from the martial law declaration to the passage of the presidential impeachment motion.
자유 헌정 질서를 지키기 위해 비상계엄을 선포합니다.
It was the first declaration of emergency martial law in South Korea since 1979. At 10:23 p.m. on December 3rd, President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law, citing pro-North Korea forces and opponents of the state paralyzing South Korean democracy. This was followed by the military announcing a set of measures, including the suspension of political gatherings that could stir social confusion. Troops were sent to both the National Assembly and the National Election Commission, leading to a clash between the military trying to enter and people trying to block them. Lawmakers worked swiftly to block the martial law decree in the hours following Yoon's declaration, with 190 of the 300 members of parliament voting to overturn the measure at around 1 a.m.
According to the decision of the National Assembly, the president must immediately lift the emergency martial law. The martial law order is now void.
President Yoon then declared an end to martial law at 4:30 a.m., followed by the cabinet passing a motion to lift it 6 hours after Yoon ordered the decree.
조금 전 국회의 계엄 해제 요구가 있어 계엄 사무에 투입된 군을 철수시켰습니다.
The same day, 6 pan opposition parties jointly submitted a motion to impeach Yoon for declaring martial law that, quote-unquote, does not meet the criteria for one as outlined by the Constitution. The first big day arrived. On December 7th, all 192 opposition lawmakers cast their ballots on Yoon's impeachment motion. However, with all but 3 lawmakers of the ruling People Power Party boycotting the vote, the impeachment motion was scrapped as it failed to meet the quorum of 200 votes. After the vote, the main opposition Democratic Party vowed to push for Yoon's impeachment every week.
We will hold Yoon Suk-yeol accountable for insurrection and military rebellion and ensure his impeachment. We won't give up.
3 days later, the Assembly passed an opposition-led bill to appoint a standing special counsel to investigate President Yoon and his close aides over the December 3rd declaration of martial law and charges of insurrection. 6 pan opposition parties at the National Assembly jointly introduced their second impeachment motion for President Yoon. Meanwhile, ahead of the second impeachment vote against Yoon, PPP leader Han Dong-un called for the president to be suspended from his duties as soon as possible. Another pivotal day where the political futures of President Yoon and South Korea hung in the balance. On December 14th, lawmakers gathered at a plenary session to vote on the second impeachment motion against Yoon. Unlike the first vote, which was dropped due to insufficient participation, all 300 lawmakers took part this time. This came as the PPP decided to participate while adopting a party consensus against impeachment.
I hereby declare that the impeachment motion against President Yoon Suk-yeol has been passed.
The motion passed with 204 votes in favor, 85 against, 3 abstentions, and 8 invalid votes, meeting the required 2/3 majority, marking the third passage of the impeachment motion of a sitting president in South Korea's history.
Now that the impeachment motion has passed, it's up to the Constitutional Court. We hope for a fair decision based on the Constitution and the law.
저는 지금 잠시 멈춰 서지만 지난 2년 반 국민과 함께 걸어온 미래를 향한 여정은 결코 멈춰 서서는 안 될 것입니다. 저는 결코 포기하지 않겠습니다.
Following the passage of the motion, Yoon was suspended from his duties, leaving his fate in the hands of the Constitutional Court.
Then what has been done so far, and what controversies have arisen?
Well, it's been over 2 weeks since the impeachment motion passed, and last Friday, the Constitutional Court held its first preparatory hearing on President Yoon's impeachment, a session to outline a roadmap for the trial with representatives from both the National Assembly and the President present. And the justices outlined 4 rough reasons for impeachment, which included Yoon's declaration of martial law, the proclamation of the martial law order, the lockdown of the National Assembly, and the disruption of parliamentary activities, and the attempted search and seizure at the National Election Commission. And after the hearing, attorney Yoon hinted that President Yoon might appear during the trial to defend himself, making this another factor to watch closely.
And would you briefly give us a preview of what to expect next year, ahead of next year when it comes to the impeachment trial?
Sure. So the Constitutional Court is now scheduled to hold its second preparatory hearing for the impeachment trial on January 3rd at 2 p.m. So that's something that we need to keep our eyes on. And the court must rule within 180 days of receiving the case, meaning the deadline is June 12th next year. And experts expect a ruling before April 18th when 2 Constitutional Court judges retire. And if the impeachment is upheld, an early presidential election will be held within 60 days, possibly in the first half of next year. So I'll make sure to keep track of all these major issues in 2025 as well.
Do keep us posted. All right, thank you, Hayoung, for the wrap-up.
My pleasure.
Now to the latest developments with regard to Korea's worst air disaster in decades. Most of the victims of the plane crash have been identified, but the task of recovering their remains continues. Park Go-nu has the latest.
The identification of at least 174 out of the 179 victims has been confirmed as of Tuesday afternoon, while efforts to recover the personal belongings and body parts of some victims are ongoing. DNA analysis is underway to help identify the remaining victims. The first funeral home for one of the victims has been set up in Gwangju, while most of the other victims' bodies are still undergoing related procedures before being returned to their families. Acting President Choi Sang-mok said maximum support will be provided for funerals in accordance with the wishes of the bereaved families. Mourners across all age groups have been heading to joint memorial altars from the early morning to mourn the 179 lives lost. Muan has at least 2 memorial altars, including one at the Muan Sports Complex and a newly established one set up on Tuesday at the airport, following requests from bereaved family members. Here's what some of the mourners in Muan had to say.
I couldn't sleep at all yesterday because I was so sad. That's why I came here from the very early morning. I canceled all my year-end and New Year's gatherings to welcome the new year calmly.
We were so heartbroken. My daughter even came from New Zealand.
One priest also visited the site.
My heart aches so much when I think of the bereaved families, so I came here with my fellow believers. Right now, I think the most important thing is to simply be together and cry together.
Along with joint memorial altars in Muan, just like the one I'm standing now, at least 88 memorial altars have been established across the country. Those include the ones in Gwangju City, where the majority of the passengers who lost their lives in the plane crash were from, as well as in Seoul. The memorial altars will be open until Saturday, the last day of the national mourning period. Park Go-nu, Arirang News, Muan.
Unlike before, the Transport Ministry today did not give an immediate answer to whether there were safety violations in the installation of localizer structures at the Muan International Airport, speculated to have increased damage during the deadly plane crash. Lee Si-hoo reports.
The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, which has previously insisted that the localizer structures at Muan International Airport were built according to safety standards, provided a more reserved comment on Tuesday and said it would confirm more details before providing further answers on the matter. This was at the ministry's press briefing on Tuesday regarding Sunday's deadly plane crash. The shift came in response to a reporter's question on whether the localizer, speculated to have exasperated damage to the aircraft, violated safety standards. Previously, the ministry said that the structure did not violate the guidelines of the country's Airport Facilities Act, which states that all structures and equipment at airport sites deemed as obstacles must be attached to easily breakable support structures. The ministry explained this rule did not apply to the localizers at the airport in Muan, located off the runway safety zone. But the Transport Ministry's Airport Safety Manual states that for a certain type of runway, the safety zone must be extended to include the localizer, offering a slightly different standard. Also during Tuesday's briefing, the ministry confirmed that the localizers at Muan were designed to be built from concrete from the beginning, and said that the malfunctioning of an aircraft's engines may impact the functions of its landing gear. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Consumer prices here in the country marked an annual acceleration of 2.3% this year, the slowest in 4 years. Moon Hye-ryun covers this finding.
South Korea's annual consumer inflation slowed to the mid-2% range this year, marking a more subdued pace compared to 2023. Data from Statistics Korea on Tuesday showed that the Consumer Price Index, a measure of inflation, rose by 2.3% year-on-year.
This falls in line with the Bank of Korea's forecast in November and is the lowest rate since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, as inflation climbed to 2.5% in 2021 and peaked at 5.1% in 2022 before settling at 3.6% last year.
The drop in petroleum prices was smaller due to the impact of international oil prices, while agricultural product prices went up more. But the growth in personal services, electricity, gas, water, and processed foods slowed down, resulting in a 1.3 percentage point drop compared to last year.
Figures for December show that the CPI rose 1.9% year-on-year, marking the fourth consecutive month of inflation under the 2% mark. The increase was, however, slightly larger than in November, signaling a potential shift back to the 2% range due to factors such as high exchange rates, which led to a reversal in the downward course of energy prices that had been seen throughout the year. Inflation remained above the Bank of Korea's target of 2% in 2024, primarily due to steep prices of fresh produce. The cost of agricultural goods soared by more than 10% this year, which is the highest rate recorded since 2010. Prices of fruits such as tangerines and pears surged, and vegetables like cabbages were reflected in an increase of almost 10% in the fresh food index. Fresh fruit prices alone rose by more than 17%, marking the sharpest rise in 20 years. The country's agriculture ministry attributed the rise to unstable conditions for growing agricultural goods due to climate change. During a review of price trends on the same day, the Bank of Korea noted increased uncertainty surrounding inflation forecasts, citing factors such as exchange rate fluctuations and weakened consumer demand. 문혜련, Arirang News.
2024 has been a year of so many ups and downs. Now it's about to become part of history. On every New Year's Eve, the iconic bell ringing ceremony takes place at Bosingak Pavilion in Seoul, and it's no exception this year, though the mood is rather different from the previous years, as the nation mourns the recent air tragedy. Our correspondent An Sung-jin is out there in front of the pavilion. Sung-jin, what's it like there?
Good evening, Jungmin. We're heading into the final hours of 2024 with less than 4 hours left here till the end of the year. As you say, I'm standing here at Bosingak Pavilion. This year's traditional New Year's bell ringing ceremony was supposed to be the largest, but following the Jeju airplane crash over the weekend, the country is currently in a period of national mourning until January 4th. The ceremony has been scaled down with more scheduled performances and events canceled. The bell ringing ceremony will begin at midnight with a total of 11 figures, including actor Go Do-sim and local firefighter Park Jun-hyun, who saved a driver from falling off the bridge, ringing the bell 33 times. Though the ceremony will be held in a rather solemn atmosphere, the festivity here remains as people gather to celebrate the end of the year.
A lot of good things happened and a little bit of rough patches as well. Mixed emotions, mix of both, but I learned a lot. But I guess that's life, but looking forward for the next 2025 as well, yeah.
I came up from Gwangju, where I run a small business. And with the tragic accident near there, it's been heartbreaking. Every New Year's wish includes health and happiness, but now it feels more meaningful than ever.
Right, Sung-jin, but still many people are expected to be there. So what is being done to make sure everything is safe?
Right, the city has thoroughly prepared. Around 800 safety management control personnel will closely monitor and cooperate with the police. It also deployed emergency medical personnel and has set up 4 shelters for people to escape the cold. The government has urged for those who are visiting here to use public transportation. That's all I have for you now, Jungmin. Back to you.
That was our correspondent An Sung-jin live at Bosingak Pavilion in central Seoul. So as we just heard, Korea is ushering in the Year of the Snake in 2025. Our Yoon, he tells us what this means and more.
As we step into 2025, South Korea is embracing the energy of a new lunar year, one that carries the mystique of the blue snake. But as the calendar turns, it's not just the animals of the zodiac that are shifting. It's also the hopes and dreams of the people. From bold aspirations to heartfelt wishes, let's take a look at what people here in South Korea are wishing for in this year of transformation.
I haven't been here for 10 years, so I'm just getting back. So it makes me want to come to Korea more. My New Year's wish is to eat a lot of tteokbokki. Wow.
Okay.
This year felt really boring, but by the end, I met a beautiful girlfriend. I hope we stay happy together for a long time.
I have 2 sons, and my New Year's wish is for them to live a healthy and happy life.
은호야, 지호야, 더 건강해라. 네.
The year 2025 is represented by the snake. Each year is represented by one of the 12 animals of the zodiac, meaning those born in the year of the snake, 12 years apart, share the same zodiac sign. For many, wishes and aspirations for the coming year are similar.
Next year, I'll be 73 and born in the year of the snake. I don't have any special wishes. Just staying healthy is all I hope for.
Over a 60-year cycle, each zodiac animal appears 5 times, each time with a different color. With 2025 marking the year of the blue snake, the National Folk Museum of Korea is holding a special exhibition that explores the symbolism and ancient customs surrounding the snake, an animal seen as both a symbol of wisdom and a sacred yet fearsome force. Ancient artifacts and tools adorned with snake shapes or patterns provide a glimpse into the symbolic meaning of snakes in past cultures. Often seen as a frightening creature, snakes were believed to be driven away by scented pendants filled with musk or by fire holders. In other times, snakes were used in traditional medicine and as a health tonic as promoted in old advertisements. Also, snakes were often seen as symbols of evil or punishment, like Medusa in Greek mythology, where the snake's inner hair represented a number of things including evil, punishment, and power. This year, the museum expanded its focus to the cultural heritage of other countries, showcasing artifacts like a snake guardian deity curving from the Baga people of Guinea, along with other ritualistic items. The exhibition highlights how snakes were symbolized and used in various ancient cultures. While 2025 is the year of the snake, the fortune for every zodiac sign is bright. May the coming year bring smooth paths and fulfillment to everyone. Wishing you a wonderful and prosperous year ahead. 이은희, Arirang News.
Today's daytime temperature stayed at the average levels without any severe cold. With mostly sunny weather across the country, it was easy to enjoy the last sunset of the year under clear skies. The first sunrise of the new year will come around on Dokdo Island at 7:26 tomorrow morning. Seoul will see its first sunrise at 7:47. If you're planning to go out to see the first sunrise tomorrow morning, you should dress extra warm as temperatures will be below 0 degrees. Seoul and Gwangju will start off at -2 degrees, Daegu and Gyeongju -4. Daytime temperatures will move up to 8 degrees in Seoul, Daejeon and Gwangju 9 degrees. Typical winter weather will continue during the first week of the new year. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. Happy New Year!
That is Newscenter for tonight. We will be back at midnight Korea time for the Arirang special ushering in 2025 to bring you highlights of 2024, what to look forward to in the year to come, and the iconic bell tolling event in Seoul. Thank you for watching.